We need to take our overwhelm to the Lord first and foremost. And even if it's just, God, this is too much.
Hmm.
It is too much. I can't hold all this.
Yeah.
And his answer every time is, I never asked you to hold it all together.
Welcome to Living the Grace Life. I'm your host, Jennifer Sakata, and you've made your way to the corner of real grace for your real life. It's summertime, so let me ask you this. What are you still trying to hold together? Because even in a season that's supposed to feel lighter and freer and more full of joy, life doesn't magically slow down, does it? Schedules still shift, expectations still creep in, and all those pressures we carried the rest of the year, they come with us in summer. It doesn't make any difference just because the sun is shining. That's why this summer we're doing something a little bit different. We're slowing down, and we're stepping into a summer book club series I'm calling The Grace of Surrender. We'll have 3 conversations with 3 authors and their deeply formational books. We'll drop one in early June, one in early July, and our last in early August. What do all these conversations have in common? Surrendering to real on the ground grace for places where life feels a bit undone, even when the sun's shining. Because surrender, it isn't about giving up. It's about loosening our grip, about trusting God and leaning in a little bit closer for those times when tensions rise along with the temperatures. Real life, open hands, more grace. Today, I'm joined by my friend Nichole Suvar, author of I Don't Have to Hold It All Together. Nichole knows what it's like to live overwhelmed, rushed, and stretched thin by anxiety. She's passionate about helping us slow down and understand what's underneath those things we're holding on to so tightly so that we can move into a more peace filled, purposeful life, the kind God designed back in Eden. Nichole lives with her family in northern Indiana and she collects chairs. The more colorful, the better. And I am sure there is a story we're going to hear about that. She thinks the best food comes in the form of a sandwich, perfect for summer, right? And she'll stop everything to read a map. We are kindred spirits, Nichole. Welcome in to Living the Grace Life in our Summer Book Club series, The Grace of Surrender.
Jennifer, it's so good to be here. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Okay, so you are a collector of chairs. That is a unique hobby. Tell us about that and what it tells us about you.
Um, yes, I just love a good chair,
I love it.
especially
I could
like
use
if
a
they're,
couple in my house, so maybe we need
I
to
have
meet
some for
up.
you for sure. I just love like the more quirky, unique, colorful, the better. Going to a thrift store or somebody's looking to get rid of one in their house, like I'm always interested in something different. I just right now I've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can see 7 chairs from where I'm sitting.
Oh my goodness, I
Yeah, I
love
just
that.
have
It's
a lot of chairs.
hospitable.
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
yes. And I was talking to a friend once about, she actually asked that too. She said, what does that say about you? And I was like, because there's way more chairs than we have behinds in this house. I said, I just love the idea of sitting in a fun chair with a cup of tea and a book. I just love the invitation of sitting down and just resting. Fun chair.
Oh,
I don't know.
I love the colorful collection because I love lots of color as well. But I love that image of a chair as an invitation to rest. And sometimes we do that alone or sometimes connected by lots of other people. But oh, gosh, I'm going to look around my house now and wait for the invitation. Just come and sit and rest. I
Yes.
love that. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know you and I, we have a very similar collection of kids and ages in
Mhm.
our family. So tell us about what fun things are happening this summer.
I'm married to my high school sweetheart. We're going on 24 years this summer.
Congratulations.
Yes.
That's
And
terrific.
we have 3 teenagers.
Oh,
19-year-old
bless you
son.
too.
Yeah, lots going on. 19-year-old
Yes.
son, who's a freshman in college. I have an 18-year-old daughter who graduates from high school 2 days before my book releases. So that's all happening at once. And then we
Oh
have
my
a
gosh.
16-year-old daughter who's a week away from getting her license.
Oh my goodness.
So that's what life is like right now.
That is a lot of transitions. We
Yeah.
have one who's got his permit right now who we're doing lots of driving hours
Lots
as
of
well.
hours.
That's a
Hmm.
lot. Well, I have it under good authority. There's this gal, her name is Nichole, and she wrote this book called I Don't Have to Hold It All Together.
Yeah.
I think you should pick it up because
Yes.
I hear it
Trust me, I'm
comes out on June 2nd.
yes, June 2nd. Trust me, I am living it to live out the things that I wrote for sure.
That is all very exciting. And listeners, you can run out and find your copy of Nichole's book. I don't have it all together because that's what we're going to be talking about in our first of our summer book club series. So, Nichole, toward the beginning of the book, you tell this story about your 8-year-old self sitting at a
Mm.
desk filled with anxiety. And as much as I wish I couldn't imagine that, especially nowadays with all the pressure our kids are carrying in and out of school, it's become a little familiar of a
Mm.
story. So take us to that young girl and how you got to writing this book so many years later.
Yes, 8-year-old Nichole,
Mm.
she had panic attacks, but did not know that's what they were.
Yeah.
I would go to my teacher and just tell her all the things I was worried about. And to the 8-year-old, they felt really big, and I could
Yeah.
not move past them. And my teacher would say, "Oh, that's not that big a deal. Oh, don't worry
Mm.
about it. Sit down."
So you got dismissed, basically.
Yeah, and I would get similar language at home. I remember not being able to sleep at night, just laying in bed and all of these things just circling in my mind over and over. That an hour and a half after mom and dad put me to bed, I would come back downstairs and be like, "Mom, Dad, I'm worried about da 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 da." Often those things where I was worried about a tornado was going to hit our house. I was pretty sure the house was going to catch on fire. I thought the ozone was disappearing and we were all going to die. Like
Oh,
really
goodness.
big
That's
things.
a lot.
Yes, but I could not sleep. And yeah, I don't fault anyone for the fact that they just
Mm.
told me to just calm down. Just calm down. It's not that big a deal. Don't worry about it. Because I don't think there's a lot of language even for other people. Like even
Yeah.
today, it can be an easy thing just to be like, if someone's worried about something, be like, hey, don't worry about it. But someone
Hmm.
who has an anxiety disorder, you can't just shut it off. Because there's so much more than just like a mind thing. There's actually like chemicals in your brain that are just not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So again, I didn't have a good language for it all through elementary. Going into junior high school, I became a Christian. I gave my life to Christ. And then the language that people gave me was different. So instead of just calm down, don't worry about it, it was like, have you prayed enough about it? Have you read your Bible enough?
Oh.
And then
Mhm.
so it shifted in me to like, I'm telling you, people, the help you're giving me isn't helping. Now, not only is it not helping, now I feel shame. So I quit
Mm.
telling people. And I just decided I needed to buckle down and figure it out on my own
Yeah.
because a decade of telling people wasn't working.
Yeah.
And that led to me just being a lot more perfection was
Mm.
something that really helped me feel like something was under control and becoming more like controlling my environment felt like it just helped quiet the anxiety a bit, but
Yeah.
really it just kind of shoved it down further. And it wasn't until I was 36 years old and I was suicidal. And
Oh.
I had a friend tell me that I needed to, here's a mental health hotline. I think you should call, just talk to them.
Mm.
And in that conversation was the first time I had heard the words, you may have an anxiety disorder. And it kind of rocked me back on my heels a little bit because I'm like, no, I just worry a lot. Like, maybe do you have the solution? Because I've yet to find it. And
Yeah.
that's when they recommended I go see a doctor. And they
Mm.
hooked me up with a Christian-based counselor. Was given the diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder and major depression. At that point, I started learning and I started healing
Mm.
and realizing, like, instead of shoving it all down, like, I had shoved it so deep. This husband of mine who had known me since 14 had no
Mm.
idea the depths of anxiety I was
Wow.
feeling because I
Yeah.
just was carrying it all on my
Mhm.
own.
Mhm.
And I shared about it on a blog of mine back in 2018, just in my, I was about 6 months into healing and learning and just shared where I was at with things and what I was learning. The response from people of, hey, me too, or I get that, or I had no idea. Like it really resonated with me that I need to do more of this because there are more people out there who are experiencing the same thing. And I want, especially those who are following Jesus, I want them to know that even if they are anxious or they're struggling with some kind of mental health thing, that doesn't discount them or disqualify them in the
Mhm.
kingdom. Like God can still use your hands and feet. He is the one who can carry you through.
Yeah. And it's interesting this journey of discovering language for what you were experiencing.
Yeah.
And then the heart of a writer, right? You take that language and translate that in a way to help other people find freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing. One of the things that you shared in your book, you distinguish between being busy and being overwhelmed. A lot of the voices that spoke to you in the beginning, I think really what they were telling you was just slow down, stop being so busy. This is not something significant to pay attention to. It doesn't have to be this complicated. Why is it important to distinguish mere busyness and overwhelmed? And then what do we do about it?
The key factor between having a full schedule and
Mm.
having an overwhelming schedule in life is digging down and finding out what is your desired outcome. If you have a
Mm.
full schedule,
Okay.
you see the things that have to get done, but you're also doing it with God. You're bringing God into it and you're
Mm.
asking God, okay, you are the one who's creating the rhythms for me. So if something gets messed up and this one thing has to actually be rescheduled, it's not like everything's falling apart. What's happening? It can be like, oh, I'm not controlling the outcome of what that is. I'm trusting God to set the rhythm and set the pace. And over here,
Mm.
where I am overwhelmed, it's because I am trying to hold it all. I'm trying to hold it all
Okay.
together. I'm trying to keep this schedule on track. And I have this desired outcome, and I am going to keep at it until everything works out the way that I want it to work out.
That's really helpful because a lot of us are what I would call full plated women and men. That
Yes.
is how we roll
Mm-hmm.
as many times as I've tried to be less of a full plated person. But there are times when I am able to live into this full plated part of who I am without the stress of control. But oftentimes, I do have that grasping at feel where things fall apart when all the things on my plate
Mm-hmm.
come crashing down. Yeah. Okay. I want to go back to something you said just a few moments ago about what happens in us physiologically when
Mm-hmm.
we are in this heightened state of overwhelm and anxiety. Help us understand what that has looked and felt like for you and what that might present as for someone who's listening thinking, am I just a full-plated person or am I moving into this sea of overwhelm and I need some help?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we tend to move quickly because there are
Mm,
a lot of things that have to get done, and it's all up to us to get it all done. And so we
mm,
are moving from one thing to the next thing.
mhm,
We're thinking ahead of the next thing that has to get done. And so we're not fully present with
mm.
the people that are right in front of us either.
Yeah.
And sometimes resentment can creep up because can nobody else see all these things that I'm doing?
I have to confess, yes, I've
Oh,
used that line a few million times probably.
yes, I live with four people that it feels like they are completely
Mhm,
oblivious. But I also recognize that we're all wired differently. I have one daughter who
mhm.
is a little more in tuned, and I think she's just wired differently
Yeah.
than the other three who I have to be like, hey, do you see the thing? And then they're like, oh, okay. And I can get upset and resentful. They're like, why can't you be more attentive? Or
Mm.
why can't, but it's a little bit of like asking you to be more like me. Where
Mm.
in some ways, it would be probably helpful if I was less attentive with some things. Like maybe this thing over here wouldn't bother me so much. So I have to like really take a step back and make sure that, yeah, like the resentment isn't growing towards like my family or coworkers or church members who we're working on a project with or whatever it might be. If resentment starts coming in, like
Mhm.
we need to take a step back. There's something in there that's starting to overwhelm us.
So it's almost like this internal, like our internal temperature literally is
Yes.
continually rising, where
Hmm.
some of those maybe smaller things that don't typically matter to us all of a sudden become these mountainous impossibilities.
Yes. Feel
And
less patient,
okay.
snippier or shorter with people too, just because
Mhm.
like we have things to do.
And there's actually, you talk about this in your book. Is it the Vega nerve?
Vagus nerve.
The
Yeah.
vagus nerve.
Hmm.
Talk to us about that a little bit, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who's just learning about so much that happens in our body when
Hmm.
anxiety and control become our default button.
Yeah. You'll notice that you're breathing a lot shallower. You're not taking these deep breaths where you're not getting as much oxygen in. So you're breathing all up in here instead of taking
Mm,
these deep belly breaths. And
yes.
when we're breathing short, it's communicating to our body that we're not safe. Like you could ask somebody, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally safe." We're like, but your mind, your subconscious does not feel
Mm,
like it because it's
mhm,
breathing quick, your body's tensing up, and all of
mm,
the your even your heart rate may be going faster. All those things are what happens if you're fearful of something, if something doesn't feel safe.
mm,
God created this beautiful thing called our vagus nerve that runs from our brain all the way down to the end of our spine. And out of that flows everything.
mm.
And to reset the vagus nerve, like one of those things is vibration.
Huh.
So I want us to set aside anything that maybe comes from like this Middle Eastern medicine, all this kind of stuff. We're going to go aside that because before all of that, God created us with this. That vibration of the vagus nerve can help bring it back into
Huh.
a calm state. So humming, but
Mm.
also singing can do that. And so I love them like God created us to be humans that can sing because he knows that when we sing or when we hum a tune, like even
Mm.
that can help with that calming. I mean, isn't
Huh.
that just so amazing? I just love,
It
like, it just points to our
is.
creator and his creativeness.
I mean, well, it is beautiful. And it makes me think about how frequently I am tied up in knots and I am trying to control more things than I was ever meant to control, which truthfully, honestly, we are not the ones who are designed to be in control. But when I can sit and listen to worship music, there is something that physiologically happens in my body to calm me. I just didn't know until this conversation that it was literally a nerve that God created in my inner being
Mm-hmm.
that's connecting with the vibration that makes sound.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
that's huge and
Yes.
so
And
simple.
yes. And
Oh
even
my
like
goodness.
along with it is using both sides of your body back and forth, which happens when you
Mm.
walk. So
Yes, right,
even going
left.
outside for a walk can be
Mhm.
something that like can help reset that vagus nerve.
Oh gosh.
And like a back and forth. So there's something like when you rock in a
Mm.
chair, there's something that can start to be soothing
Mhm.
about the back and forth
Mhm.
motion. Like
Well, we
all
do
these
it with our
things.
babies, right?
Yes.
And I don't know if you've done this, Nichole, because obviously we are well past having babies in our home.
Yeah.
But do you ever gather in another group of women and there's a mom there who's holding a baby?
Hmm.
Do you find yourself almost not even realizing that you're doing it?
Yeah,
But
you're
if
kind of
a
moving
baby
along with them.
starts
Hmm.
crying or
Yeah.
wiggling or something, you start moving your body
Uh-huh.
too. I've never thought about that, but it happens every time, right?
Yeah.
Oh
Yes.
my
I
God.
actually just yesterday, someone handed me a 12 case of pop, like a long,
Oh,
one of
yeah.
those
Big
long
one,
ones.
heavy one. Hmm?
And so I was holding it like this and I was talking to somebody and I literally started like doing this.
You're playing your air pop.
I literally, yes, I was literally like trying to rock the soda.
Oh, don't open it up too quickly. That
No.
will cause another range of emotions.
Yes.
That's a whole different one. But I just love that God created our bodies with this internal, both warning and system to
Hmm.
restart and reset. Oh, what a
Hmm.
beautiful image of grace. Just even the
Hmm.
way that God created
Yes.
our bodies, it's this restart. So we call that regulation,
Hmm.
right? when the
Yeah.
body comes back into this calm state. One of
Hmm.
the other things you talked about, in addition to the singing and humming, was how co regulation takes
Hmm.
place when we're able to enter that space with other people. Let's
Hmm.
talk about community, especially in summertime. We are surrounded by lots of people. Our schedules have changed, but sometimes the big crowd and the too many people, that can feel anxiety producing. So, what might it look like for us to come back to regulation, to co
Hmm.
regulate with the
Hmm.
people around us when they're also the people who may be contributing to some of our anxiety and stress? Let's be
Yes.
honest, right?
Yeah. I did talk a little bit in there about co-regulation and how it can happen with another human, but it's a human that you trust.
Mm, okay.
It's someone that you have been vulnerable with, and they have held that vulnerability and kept it safe.
Makes
And
sense.
there's this meeting of your minds a bit, like of your souls when you are together, that you don't even have to talk, but you're just in the presence of somebody else. And if that person can be the calm one for you, you
Mm,
can help bring you down. And it's sometimes it's back and forth. Like maybe you are the one who's in a state of just being in a more of a calm season, or just that day maybe you have
sure.
feel like just being with that other person. Generally it's just
Okay.
like with one, we're not processing with a big old group, we're just
Yeah.
processing out like this is the thoughts that I'm having, like just saying them out loud can
Mm,
bring clarity because we get it outside our head.
makes sense.
Voice it out loud, we can start to hear, okay, that was, I was letting my mind run a little far with that. So there's,
Mm,
and I just love that again, like that's my chapter on belonging. God created us to need
mhm.
others.
That was one of my favorite chapters because so much of summer, as I mentioned, we're surrounded by so many people. And
Mhm.
it should be fun and exciting and filled with joy. But a lot of times the reality is those very same people we're with are part of what we're struggling. So, what I'm hearing you say is maybe there are spaces when we need to take a break from the crowd of people and we
Mhm.
need to seek out that other person who is a safe person for us. I'm
Mhm.
even wondering if maybe it would be useful, instead of texting it with our fingers, to literally hear ourselves say out loud what we're struggling with. And then when we get a message back, we read that message out loud and give it space to maybe go a little deeper.
Yeah, I love that idea. I have another author friend who has been really faithful and like checking in with me as I'm writing this
Mm,
book because she also was
hmm.
writing a book at the
Yeah.
similar amount of time. And so I would text her and tell her where I was going with things. And instead of a text back, I just got a voice memo of her praying. Like she was just
Oh,
praying
that's
for me.
beautiful.
And
Yes.
I was like, the first time she did that, it just, it meant so much to me just to hear her voice and to know that she just
Yeah.
paused right then to pray. So I think there's, yeah, just having those voice memos, like just sending that one. I feel like that's at least
Mm,
could be a stand-in for the time when you can actually meet actually
yeah.
with that person.
Yeah, I love that. I always am touched by those voice memos too. And maybe it's what you've been saying all along. It's the hearing of the voice, because when I'm hearing someone leave a voice message, there is that vibration that's going through my ears, and it really does bring a settling. We've talked about a few rhythms, and I do like to keep things really practical here. So we've talked about humming, listening to worship music, walking outside. What have been some of your other go to rhythms or practices when you notice you're really tightening the grip and you know you need to release control, but you're struggling to do that?
Yeah, I have to get it out of my head. So I have to dump it all down on paper. There's times
Mhm.
that I realize, okay, I've gone too far with just keeping the to-do list in my head. Like I
Mm,
actually need to get it down on paper. And then when
yeah.
I do, I pray over it. I ask God to like, God, okay, edit
Yeah.
anything. You just put it all down. And so it
Yeah.
all gets down there. And so then I ask him to just give me clarity on what actually needs to be on this to-do list and
Oh,
what, just because I saw it doesn't mean I need to do it. So who else can step into this space and help me with it? And then move from there. If I need to weed things out or prioritize, put ones, twos between what
mm,
actually needs to get done today, what can happen tomorrow, what really doesn't need to happen until next week. It's written here, so I
hmm,
no longer have to keep thinking about it, but we can get to this next week.
Don't we do that? We have this list, and it feels like every single thing on the list is an absolute urgent priority. But I love what you're saying. So dump the list down so you can actually visually see it and then rate those things. Boy, what a freedom and a release comes
Mm-hmm.
in that. I know when I've taken the time to do that, the rest of my day and how I go into it is remarkably different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another thing I do is I have three alarms on my watch for
Oh,
8 a.m., 12 p.m., and 4 p.m.
8 a.m.,
So
12
8,
p.m.,
12, and
and 4
4.
p.m. Got it.
And so when those go off, it's just a reminder to me to just stop and take inventory.
Ah,
Where am I at as far as walking with the Lord? Have I just rushed into my day and not really spent my time with Him yet? I'm just taking inventory of my body too. Am I at 8 a.m.? Am I already like this and needing to feel like I have all these things I have to get done? So just again, like a cue to slow down, take inventory. And then at noon, when it's like that lunchtime,
yes.
okay, morning is past. I've got the rest of the day. What now that I've gotten halfway through a work day? Are there things on this list that I thought were important at 8 a.m. and clearly they just really don't need to get done today? Like some of those things, but then again, it's like
Mm-hmm.
that inventory of how am I feeling?
Yeah.
Am I getting too far ahead of God? I'm running ahead of him instead of walking at his pace? And then I do the same thing at 4. Okay, what did get done today? What still needs to get done? Is there anything that does need to get done? Time
Yeah.
to start shutting some of that stuff down and moving to a different rhythm. Because even like in the
Oh,
summer, I know you
I
don't have the
love
school
this.
thing anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes the evenings can have a different feel than the mornings. And
Mm.
if you haven't gotten something done that you wanted to do with your family up at the 4 p.m. hour, like, okay, how do we need to shift this evening so more of this family time can
Oh,
happen? Or
yes.
like, yeah, so just those three check-ins
Mm-hmm.
with myself and with God.
I love that intentionality. That is what helps us move from controlling everything to
Hmm.
allowing God to set the pace and literally
Hmm.
the agenda on the day. Oh, and that's so practical. I am going to do that after our conversation today. It reminds me actually of another story that you told in your book about what was it? Your water softener was broken. And so I think this is
Yes.
relatable. I literally laughed out loud when I read that because I've done what you did so many times.
Yeah, our water softener wasn't working. We have very hard water, so like everything's turning rusty and I
Mm.
was feeling a little stressed about it. And so I called the water softener place and the person who answers, I was like, "Hey, okay, I'm having this problem and this is what it's doing. I think you came back about a year ago, but this is what happened then." And then they said, "Okay, let me transfer you to the service department." Like the person that I just dumped all of this onto, they couldn't help. And so I still had to go and repeat the whole thing to the service department. And so I translate that to
Mm.
like how often do we go to people and just
Yes. Mm-hmm.
complain and pour out all of our
Mm-hmm.
laments? And I said it earlier, there's a co-regulation that comes when we can discuss, but we have to go to the source first. And
Yeah.
so the service department we
The
need to
real service
take this
department with a
real,
capital S, right?
yes, we need to take our overwhelm to the Lord first and foremost. And even if it's just, God, this is too much.
Mm-hmm.
It is too much. I can't hold all this.
Yeah.
And his answer every time is like, I never asked you to hold it all together. There are things that, I mean, he will give us more than we feel like we can handle. And he can't because that's where his grace is sufficient. It is okay for us to feel like it's too much because nothing is ever too much for him. He can
Yeah.
always handle it. But he is inviting us to walk with him because there's this refinement in us when we can acknowledge that like we are nothing and he is everything. He's glorified in it. If we could handle all of it ourselves and be like,
Mm.
yes, look at me, I've got it all together. But
Mm-hmm.
then where's God in the glory of that? When
And
we're
we do
weak.
that, right?
Yeah,
And
do.
I think we do that every day. And that's why we need a book like I Don't Have to Hold It All Together because our default, our habit has become holding it all together. I love what you just said. God never asked us to do that. We've taken that on ourselves. And the consequence for that are these bodies that are seriously dysregulated and struggling in ways we don't even
Yeah.
realize. Yeah. There's another concept you talk about. Let's see. It's trying harder versus trusting more fully. We want to control and put it all together and look at our list and figure out how we're going to white knuckle our way through. But what Eden's calling us back to, when you go back to Genesis, Eden is calling us back to God who fully provided for Adam and Eve before they needed clothes, before they sought out anything else. Talk to us about what it has looked like for you to take the journey from trying harder to trusting more fully.
Yeah, I think the trying harder ties to all those times when I was trying to worry less and
Mm,
all of the trying, and it just wasn't working.
yeah.
And all trying involves us doing, but trusting often involves us stopping and resting. Like
Oh, that's
in
so
resting,
hard.
I know, but
Yes.
there's so much
Yes.
there's so much trust communicated
Yeah.
when we stop and rest. And I know that we're speaking to those who are like, I have so much that God has asked me to do.
Yeah.
Totally. I am also have a long list of things that I believe that God has placed in my life and has called me to do.
Mm,
But am I trying to produce the fruit and create the outcomes? I think that's again the kicker of the trusting. Like there are things that he is calling us to do, but it comes to a point where then we rest from what we have done and we trust that he's then carrying it forward. He's producing the fruit in his time
mm.
and his outcomes.
I want to sit there for just a moment because that phrase, trust God, it's something we hear, it's something we say, but what does that really look like? Trusting God looks like resting. And that's what you do throughout your day, 3 times during the day. And when you first shared that, here's true confessions here. I thought, I wonder if she ever blew past 12 noon and 4 p.m. because I think that's what I would do on a regular basis. I would blow past and think, oh, I'll catch it the next time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's an indicator that I'm trying to hold it all together, that
Yeah.
I'm controlling, and I'm not trusting that restful space will actually equip my soul and my body for what it truly needs.
Yes. Yeah. This just came to me as we'll tie into the thing that we talked about with chairs earlier. But trusting, when you sit down on a chair,
Mm.
you believe and you trust for it to hold you, right? Like, never are you sitting down being like, I don't know, this thing might fall. I think it's going to fall. We are
True.
not going to sit down. I'm not
Ah,
sitting down on something I think
okay.
that might fall apart. But a chair, we trust that chair to hold us. When you sit in a chair, you choose to
Mm.
rest.
Mm-hmm.
So you can almost do like this symbolic find a chair in your house.
Oh, I love this.
And this is my trust chair. And I am going to sit in this chair and
Mm-hmm.
trust God to be the one who's holding all this because I need to rest. There you go. Tie it all together.
Oh my gosh. That is a lot of times I talk about grace gold. That is grace gold. We've been digging all around it this whole conversation. Thank you. That's beautiful. So that actually ties into something else I wanted to ask you about. You talk about shifting our boundaries to grace. And that's that space where we shift our expectations to make them, allow them to be more realistic, where we make space for the fact that we're going to fail and the people around us are going to fail. And let's face it, in summer, we tend to be surrounded. So, talk to us about what it looks like to shift our boundaries to grace.
In the boundary chapter, I think one of the things that we will do to ourselves is we should. All of
Mm,
these shoulds. So
yes.
I think even with summer, like there's that
Yes.
summer bucket list. Oh,
Oh,
let's,
my. Can we just be
yeah.
gracious to ourselves and maybe not?
Yeah, I actually have a free resource that's for an intentional summer. And there's just like, these are things
Oh,
that, but they're not
yes.
like, this is not a to-do list because I think that's we'll get ourselves in
Mm,
trouble when we go back to those
yeah.
boundaries. I should be doing, like, a good mother should be doing this with their kids in the summer. You've just created an
Yeah.
expectation for yourself, which is like a boundary that you feel like you need to get to. You need to,
Yeah.
and when we do those shoulds, we're setting ourselves
Mm.
up for failure every time because a should is always just outside our boundary.
Oh, yes. That's right.
Because
Thank
even if
you.
we meet a should, even if we're like, oh, I should be in this, whatever it would be with my kids, right? Thought
Yeah.
at one point in time is that a good mother should be doing all five main food groups at every single meal.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. So I was constantly failing when all they wanted was a hot dog and mac and cheese.
Or cereal, right?
And you know what? Sometimes it is okay to that's what they eat. They're gonna
Hmm.
make it to the next meal. Like
This
we're
is good.
grateful that we're in a place where
Yeah.
we can do that.
Oh,
We give those
yeah.
shoulds to ourselves. All we're doing is we just put
Oh, yeah.
shame and expectation on ourselves.
Yeah. So we need to release it. We
Yeah.
need to
Stop.
literally, we need to, as they say, stop shooting on
Yep.
ourselves. We
Yep. There's a reason they
literally
say it.
need to let that go. It's very relatable. That is a gracious act to lay that
Yes.
aside.
Give
And I
yourself
want to
grace.
say again, in case anyone missed it, your definition of should is it's something that's always just outside
Yeah.
our boundary. So we set ourselves up for failure from the get go.
Hmm.
What other boundaries of grace do you think we need to lean into in summertime?
Hold your plans loosely. And if things don't quite roll the way they want to because a child needs a nap, when
Yeah.
maybe
Or
um
maybe you do,
or you need a nap.
right?
Like holding the plans loosely, and I think that's just giving yourself grace too. Be like, that's it doesn't reflect on me if plans change, or maybe we don't exactly get to do the thing that we wanted to do today, or yeah, I can give grace to others a lot quicker than I give it to myself.
Oh, so
People
true.
fall into that.
Hmm. That's a big part of what the show is all about, is what it looks like for us to give grace to ourselves because we can't give from an empty bucket, right? If we are not receiving grace and experiencing grace, then we can't possibly expect ourselves to extend it to the people
Mhm.
around us. Yeah, absolutely. One of the ways that I love to partner with my guests is to hear about their go to grace song, because this is always a practical way to restart and come back to grace. I know you've got an oldie, but a goodie, so to speak. So, talk to us about your go to grace song and why it grounds you in grace.
Yes, an old Irish hymn, I believe, is Be Thou My Vision from 10th century, something like that. I feel like I saw it on the, like
I have
how
no
long ago it
idea,
was.
but
It's a
it's an
long time.
old
Yeah.
song.
And I just love it because all of the words are worship. None of it is about me. It is all about, Lord, I want you to be my vision. You are my treasure. You, everything is God. And I think that is so important, especially when we're talking about this overwhelm, even, and that we need to remember, like, where does our focus need to be? Because we can get overwhelmed. Like I said, either we look too far in the future and think all these things that we have to do, or it just becomes too much and we just shut down,
Mm.
whatever, however overwhelmed works to us. But always when we are looking to God, if He is our vision, we are reminded of the one who is sufficient for all things.
Oh, yes. I love that. That's beautiful. And what a great word for us to be reminded of this summer. As we move toward wrapping up our episode together, there is a story I want to be sure we don't miss, because I know there's someone right now who's thinking, my circumstances are so hard, and there is absolutely nothing I can do either to escape them or to calm down in the middle of them. And what I hear page after page in your book is that that just isn't true, that there is something we can do when we can't control our circumstances. And so you tell this beautiful story and something you learned about God along the way and the fact that we can trust Him. Would you mind sharing that with us?
So, something that my entire life I have struggled with being anxious. One thing is tornadoes. They would make me very anxious. And whenever I'm in a stressful point of life, I there's always tornado dreams. There's always tornadoes in my dreams. And a couple years ago, we went on a mission trip with our Sunday school, and my husband and I both, we were like head of the committee. We were getting in line to get onto the airplane to go to Jamaica. And as we're like handing
Oh,
our tickets, we hear the person behind us say, "So, do you have a plan to shelter during the storm?" And I was like, "Wait, huh, what?" And as I'm like walking down the gangway,
Shelter
like it's
what?
too late. It's too late. We can't turn back. And I was like, "Wait, what about what?" He's the hurricane. I said, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, there's a tropical storm now, but there's supposed to be a hurricane to hit Jamaica." And I'm like, "Why are we going?" So I
This
we
is not a good
land.
idea.
Oh my God. But it was way too, I mean, we had 40 people. We can't just turn around. So we are on this airplane. We land. We find out that in 2 days, a hurricane category 5 will hit Jamaica. And so this person who freaks out at the thought of a
Oh
tornado
my
is
gosh.
now
Oh my
going to
gosh.
be on an island
Mm.
with a category 5 hurricane coming.
Yeah, that's kind of big. That's a
It,
lot.
yes, I was amazed at the Lord's presence with his spirit that was with all 40 of us while we were there to witness this hurricane, which it ended up being a 4 by the time it hit land, but to witness the storm and the winds and the amount of rain. But
Yeah.
what really spoke to me not only was the Holy Spirit, like how peaceful we all felt,
Hmm.
was the people that lived there. These people, this
Hmm.
was their home, their life. Like, and they've lived through hurricanes before, so they've seen God's provision.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
knew it was coming again. And they were like, he saw us through others, he'll see us through this one. Their ability to live with life with open hands spoke
Yes.
so much to me. And how I think of hurricanes of life that come through, how we want to just keep holding on to all these things, when sometimes God is there to clear out some of it.
Yeah.
And he can do that much better when we can hold it with open hands.
Mm. I love that. That's just like our tagline for this summer series: real life, open hands,
Mhm.
more grace. Tell us, Nichole, we're going to close in prayer in just a few moments, but tell us where people can find you.
Yes, they can connect with me on my website, which is livewithintent.org. There's links for free resources on there, links to books. I'm also on Instagram where I share a few times a week. Usually it's some kind of encouragement or some kind of practical tip, but always the focus is mental health God's way, God's design for mental wellness.
I'll make sure that all that gets into the show notes, along with that freebie you mentioned earlier, and a link for
Yeah.
where you can find Nichole's book as
Yeah.
well.
That'd be
Thank you.
great.
There were a lot of prayers sprinkled throughout your book, which
Mm.
was one of the reasons I chose it, honestly, to be part of our summer book club series, because learning to be in conversation with God when the tensions rise along with the temperatures, that is about as practical as it gets. There was a prayer about halfway through your book on page 112. So when you get Nichole's book, just start there. Jump to 112 and then go back and read the rest of her book. But would you be willing to close us in prayer? And if it seems appropriate, I would love for you to either include that prayer or pray us out with that one.
Yeah, I will just pray that prayer for us.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gracious God, you are our refuge and strength, a very present help in times of trouble. There are times when intense storms blow into our lives, either through weather or circumstance. During those times, I want you to be the first place I turn. I want to be
Mhm.
reminded of your provision and care in the midst of what feels like chaos. I want to know your protection and love when it feels like everything is falling apart. I
Mm.
call on the one who once calmed a sea with his words. Lord, in your mercy, hear my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Nichole. This was marvelous. This was really
Yeah, I've really
great.
enjoyed our discussion today.
I want to go back to that image of the chair. There was so many parts of this conversation I could return to, but I just love this idea of a chair as a place inviting us to rest, to stop, to pause, to lean in to God and literally surrender. So if you got a chair someplace in your home, or maybe the seat in your car where you can retreat to once or twice during the day, to stop what you're doing and spend a few moments leaning in to your relationship with God. Maybe you pray this prayer Nichole prayed when they first arrived in Jamaica. Father, you promised to hold us together. Help me release control and trust you to keep your promise. He will, friend. Thanks for joining our summer book club series, The Grace of Surrender. Up next, at the beginning of July, is my conversation with Mary DeMuth and her book, The Freedom of Surrender, 40 Devotions for a Joyful Life in Christ. If this episode has helped you surrender in some way, then would you share it with a friend and be sure and come back next time. As always, you can find me at jennifersakata.com or send me an email at jennifer@jennifersakata. Until next time, remember to live the grace life generously, friend. Grace for you, grace for them.